People, 2nd of November, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. Fair bit of news today. We'll go through, just been watching Prime Minister's Questions, which is constantly hell. This particular Prime Minister's Questions was mostly on immigration, where you've got two parties pretty much ignoring the fact that they're human beings. And ignoring the fact that the continual dehumanization of these, if there are, I mean, you've got human trafficking victims coming over, and the continual dehumanization of them is the type of jingoistic rhetoric that allows Sunday's domestic terrorism to happen. Because all you need to do is light that flame and bam, you're going to have some fucking loon do something stupid. On that fucking loon, Andrew Leak is the man suspected of the petrol bombing in Dover of the migration centre. Gonna surprise you. He had a history of sharing far-right content and posting racist comments online. What a shock. There has to be a lot more looking into the radicalisation of these small-dicked, sad little pricks. On all sides, all radicalisation, because even the de-radicalisation is very bad. We have Prevent, which is a bigoted idea by our government that is based on racist science that is not true, but that has a de-radicalisation side to it that doesn't really de-radicalise. Because if you want to de-radicalise, and of course I'm, as with all of this, I'm not what one would claim an expert. To de-radicalise, you have to show that the things that they originally believed are incorrect. You have to put cracks into it and allow them to come through and say, oh geez, what was I thinking beforehand? It was obviously bogus. That's what I think anyway. But I don't think you deal with the self as much with the radicalisation, because with radicalisation it's yourself as much as the information you're getting that changes. Why if you read about people coming over to this country on boats, are you not looking at the removal of all the safe routes? Why are you not looking at the numbers? What is it about this that stops you from searching out more information? Of course, this Andrew Leak happened to follow Farage on Twitter, I believe, which says everything you need to know at this point. You've got these, it's about them. There's a fear. There's a fear there. Fear of stuff being taken away from them. That's stuff that they never had, really. National pride and everything else. If you've got national pride, then you're angry at the NHS being destroyed. You're angry at BBC being ripped apart. You're angry at the World Service being reduced, arguably the best piece of soft power that we have. You are angry at the destruction of things that we had to be proud of to be British. That's what you should be angry at. The idea of someone coming over here makes no sense to me. Sunak is going to attend COP27, which is the UN climate change conference, after originally saying he wouldn't go, and Tories coming out and saying it was such a good idea for him not to go because it's expensive and he's flying there and everything. So now they're going to have to come out and say it's actually a really good thing that he is going, because he is still a Tory. He does need to U-turn. That's the news, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's his first U-turn. It's so difficult, day in and day out, to make no sense to me anymore. So I can't even remember if it's his first U-turn or one of fucking 98 that someone else has done. talking on things that you should be proud to be British on, that have been destroyed. The BBC plans to make big cuts to local radio. Under proposals, the 39 local radio stations in England will share more shows. BBC claims the plans would prioritise digital content and grow the value we deliver to local audiences everywhere. Moving to digital, moving to digital rarely improves anything. You look at the BBC Three. BBC Three was having lots of good stuff on it, some really good new comedy, and then they moved to just the digital, and in about 2 weeks it went. Local everything is incredibly important. You see a destruction in local journalism. Local journalism is remarkably important. The majority of big newspapers get their stuff from local journalists. The majority of good journalists started in local press, and that's being destroyed because the idea of buying papers is like beneath us or something. We're in a society where we expect everything for free. So the idea of actually paying for stuff to get quality, because if you do not pay, then what you'll get is more sponsored content and fucking adverts every 2 pissing seconds and client journalism tosh. Which means that what you'll get is newspapers where, as we are now, you read something and you go, well, what's the reason for this? Why have you written it this way? What's the story here? Who are you trying to make look good? You can't trust them. All presenters on BBC local radio, nearly all producers and journalists have been placed provisionally on at risk of redundancy, which happened just yesterday, and they're all so happy about it. Really is good. Even the government are coming out and saying that they're unsure about this happening, and the government for years have been trying to get rid of the BBC. That's how bad of a fucking idea this is, because local radio is good and useful for people in more rural areas, because they don't have the internet, or they don't know how to use the internet, they don't know how to use digital. There's lots of stuff. The continual move to digital and everything affects 2 people: the poor and the old. Like moving to a cashless society, as we seem to be doing more and more. Who does that affect the most? The poor and the old. Everything. There's so many ideas that come out that people think are a good idea tend to affect the most the old and the poor. And we're fine with that at this point. I can kill all the old people and use the poor as fucking carbon emissions or something. Right. Next bit. The 8 minutes, Chris. The Public Account Committee has said that the UK government is failing to lead by example on taking action to cut greenhouse gas emissions and meet legally binding targets to meet the net zero by 2050. This is one of the major issues that we're facing. We want to get to net zero by 2050, which is carbon neutral. So we are not we're not using or pumping more carbon out than we're saving, so it's all neutral. That necessarily, it won't necessarily make a difference, but it's a nice thing to try. I mean, if we're doing it by 2030, then there's a chance of saving it, but 2050 is a pointless exercise. But across Whitehall, the rules for reporting, gathering data, and taking action are vague. So this means that it is a free-for-all. So all the departments, they're giving out all this information, or they're not giving out any information at all, making it very difficult for us as the public to hold the government to account. And so you've got the departments who are in charge of keeping everyone in order and making sure that everyone is publishing all of the data and gathering all of the data and letting everyone know where they currently are as a department heading towards a net zero. They're shit at it, which means that we cannot hold any of them to account, which is just another example of a severe lack of anything that resembles transparency or competence from a government that, at this point, if you had the fucking Teletubbies in charge for this amount of time, they would have got more done, and at least we'd all be watching fucking some fucking TV on their bellies for Prime Minister's questions. Teletubbies, Prime Minister's questions would at least keep you entertained. So this shit. Over in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the murderous far-right tiny dick bigot ex-Israeli Prime Minister, looks set to become the next Prime Minister of Israel, which is awful. This is after his right-wing religious extremist bloc extended its lead in Israel's fifth election in 4 years. His party has not performed as well, his own personal party has not performed as well as expected. But a surge for his right-wing allies, the religious Zionists, who are now seen as the third biggest party in Israel. And what a name, the religious Zionists are good people. Mixed with a poor showing for two pro-Arab rights parties and the left-wing party, means that Netanyahu is most likely to be the candidate to be able to form a government when everything's counted. Of course, coalition it will be with his far-right religious extremist nutjob fucking friends. Palestinian citizens living in Israel, which make up about 20% of the population, were expected to be the deciding factor of the election. However, they were split over three parties, which means most of the votes, a lot of the votes, were wasted, which is, it's like the most pure example of why the right keep on winning. It's exceptional. It's like a room of proof that this is what happens, because the left are all over the place. Human rights and free rights and everything, always there, everywhere. The right are just there. Like, you vote for these, you vote for the extreme right, and then especially if they're doing a coalition together, like you've got the right wing of Netanyahu, and then you've got the extreme right of the religious Zionists. They're going, oh well, here we are, and they're together. There's a big fuck off block. Whereas on the left, they're all against each other, all constantly. Oh no, we're the better one. And then they lose. And that's why the right continue to win. The religious Zionists, as I say, are now look to be Israel's third largest party. Their leader, who is Ben Gvir, he was celebrating with an all-male campaign gathering in Jerusalem with supporters chanting "Death to Terrorists," which is a fine sentiment. I just don't think they mean it how I would. Also, I'm against the death penalty, so they certainly aren't. But Ben Gvir, who was a former follower of the banned terrorist group Catch, with convictions for inciting racism, he has promised to back legislation to change the legal code of Israel, which would help Netanyahu evade conviction for corruption. So that's fun. Couple more stories. Oh, this is going to be another, because this is another long story. This is a report by the Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services, which is a fuck off name, innit? Jesus. Or, for short, HMICFRS, easy, everyone's going to remember that, who said that defective vetting and failures by police leaders allowed a prevalent culture of potentially thousands of officers who are predatory towards women to join or stay in the ranks. This is a big fucking report, not going to be the only one. We expect more reports to come out next year, all off of the back of Sarah Everard's disgusting kidnap, rape and murder by the police officer scum. I'm not saying his name, fuck him, he doesn't deserve fame. It always gets me with all of these atrocities made by people. They are the ones who get the fucking fame. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, fucking Ian Huntley, fucking Harold Shipman. They get their name in lights. And the victims are always forgotten. Always forgotten. It should be the other way around. You remember the victim, you celebrate the victim, you ignore that tedious little prick and let them fucking rot. Officers have staged unwarranted stops on women in abuses of power known as booty patrols. They're there for your safety. We need, if you want to, I would defund the police, but I would then use that money to get a new police that was just hunting down the old police, because there's enough fucking crimes in there to keep yourself busy for a while. Crimes such as sexual assault were covered up and ignored, along with widespread harassment of female officers and members of the public. This is it, you're at a point now for women, if they get harassed in the street, what do you expect them to do? Call the police and get harassed by them? Doesn't seem right. We're moving away more and more safety from people, and we're in a country that loves the concept of safety. We've removed freedoms for the argument of safety constantly. You can't walk down the street without a video camera up your hole. All for safety, all for safety, all for safety, yet the people who are meant to keep you safe are some of the worst people that there are. Because they're the people with power. If you've got a bad person with power, that bad person's twice as fucking bad. The report shows senior officers pursuing women for sex, the watching of porn on duty, and misogynistic comments made about crime victims in public. They would probably claim that last one was gallows humour, but with gallows humour, the problem is you're not going to do it in fucking public. There were decades of warnings to police chiefs, with the inspectorate finding they were complacent and failed to appreciate the dangers to the public. So even the people so this goes to the very top, with a consistent ignoring, because it's the Band of Brothers things. Oh, you don't know, we've got the most dangerous job, we go outside, you don't know if we're going to live or die. That shouldn't make you into a prick. Officers were allowed to join after committing offences such as robbery, indecent exposure, possession of drugs, drink driving, and domestic abuse. Now, I would go as far. Robbery, possession of drugs, fine. You can still become a police officer at that point. Learn your lesson. I don't think you're going to learn more as a police officer, a robber, but indecent exposure, drink driving, and domestic abuse, especially indecent exposure and domestic abuse, I don't see how you get ticked off there. I've got no, it's not up here. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Every female officer and staff member who was spoken to told of harassment and in some cases assaults. We've got more reports to come on that. Continuing on with justice. An ad campaign by the Ministry of Justice has been banned after featuring a white prison officer and a black prisoner, which is, of course, perpetuating the negative stereotypes of race and crime. You would have thought that one of them would have fucking noticed it. You can't be that racist and surround yourself with racist people. If you are a bigot and you work for a company, surround yourself with people who aren't bigots, because then you won't be found out as fucking easily. Final piece of news: more than 40 clinical psychologists have signed an open letter to the Association of Clinical Psychologists UK in protest of the organisation's recent position statement on the provision of services for gender questioning children and young people. So they believe there was a failure to properly consult experts in the field or service users, resulting in misleading statements that perpetuates the alarming discourse about the work and gender diverse identities more broadly. This is a continuation of a very difficult conversation with regards to especially things like waiting times and only having affirmative approaches with regards to trans people wanting to transition. I'm not going to get too deep into this because, quite frankly, not my game. There should be rules on lots of stuff. I don't know what they are. I don't have a clue what they are. They are just not for me to say. But it's not simple, and we shouldn't allow the worst people in society to lead the conversation. So that's it. I shall see you tomorrow. So have a good one. Bye.